Who does not know the name and activities of revolutionary Masterda Surya Sen? This brave revolutionary mentioned in his last letter written from Chittagong Jail on 11th Jan 1934, a day before his hanging.
Never forget the 18th April 1930, the day of Easter Rebellion in Chittagong. Keep ever fresh in your memory the fights of Jalalabad, Juldha, Chandannagar and Dhalghat. Write in red letters in the core of your hearts the names of all patriots who have sacrificed their lives at the altar of India's freedom. Long live revolution, Bandemataram.
What exactly happened on 18th April 1930? It was the day of historic Chittagong Armory raid, the day when a band of fearless young revolutionaries from a small village in East Bengal shattered the whole British colonial rule. Since the Sepoy Mutiny of 1857, which was also known as the First War of Independence, this was the first successful attempt where freedom was snatched from British imperialist power through direct armed confrontation, due to which the national flag was hoisted and a provisional revolutionary government was proclaimed, at least for a few days. Let us briefly revisit the events of that day and recall its aftermath.
The spread of socialist ideology in British India after the success of Bolshevik Revolution in Russia in 1917, the subsequent working class movements in India, the disillusionment among the revolutionary fractions within Indian National Congress after the sudden withdrawal of non-cooperation movement, the growing frustration among the educated middle class in the midst of an ensuing global economic crisis. All of these were bringing a qualitative transformation in the anti-colonial struggles in India. Starting from Punjab to Bengal, everywhere either new young leadership was emerging within underground organizations preceded by bitter debates with the old leadership, or fresh secret organizations were created with new work principles. Satish Chandra Pakrashi from Dhaka, Surya Sen and Ambika Chakraborty from Chittagong, Jatin Das and Binoy Roy from Kolkata, Niranjan Sengupta from Borishal, Prabhat Chakraborty from Tripura were the active revolutionaries of this space and were associated with the 1929 planning of simultaneous attacks on more than one enemy targets in three districts, Chittagong, Moyamonsingh and Borishal, on the same day at the same time. However, on 18 December 1929, Satish Chandra Pakrashi, Niranjan Sengupta and Raman Bishwas were arrested from Mechua Bazar, Kolkata with several documents, bomb-making formula, etc. During the raid, British police seized a leaflet named The Youths of Bengal, a copy of which was produced in British government's intelligence report titled Terrorism in India 1917 to 1936. To arouse the youth of Bengal, the leaflet mentioned,
Young Bengalis, will not your revolutionary spirit stir up to play with fire at the self-sacrifice of Jatin? Will it not blossom like a red lotus? Will not the proof of covetousness of the English government, the merciless operations on all quarters, and the harrowing persecutions teach you to think seriously where your path lies? Do not select a wrong path, being stupefied by the old leaders of Bengal. Stand on your legs.
Around 32 revolutionaries were arrested from different districts with whom the Mechua Bazar bomb case was initiated. In a situation like this, the revolutionaries from Chittagong, under the leadership of Masterda Surya Sen, decided to execute their part of action as early as possible.
Starting from day selection, the events of Chittagong Armory raid and simultaneous attacks on various enemy targets were perfectly planned and executed. On 24 April 1916, Irish Volunteer Army, the underground military organization of Irish freedom fighters that was waging armed struggle against the British rulers, tried to capture the capital of Ireland, Dublin. In a similar manner, the day 18th April 1930 was selected because it was Good Friday. It was also considered as a tactical reason for selecting the date. With the enemy busy with celebration and merrymaking, it was considered to be the best time for the attacks. Surya Sen and his comrades meticulously planned, number 1, to capture the police line of Chittagong along with its armory, number 2, to destroy the auxiliary force barrack, capture arms and bring those to police line, number 3, to destroy the telephone exchange in order to disrupt the communication of Dhaka and Kolkata with Chittagong, number 4, to dismantle the rail line that connects Chittagong with outer world, and number 5, to attack the European club and imprison British men and women present there to avenge Jallianwala Bagh and similar massacres. The whole band of the revolutionaries was divided into several groups to execute these different tasks, and brave hearts like Ananta Singh, Ganesh Ghosh, Loknath Bal, Nirmal Sen, Ambika Chakraborty were entrusted with the leadership of these different groups.
A leaflet was circulated in the evening of 18th April 1930 on behalf of Indian Republican Army Chittagong branch, declaring an armed struggle against the British rulers with an appeal to join the struggle for Indian independence. Under the leadership of Ananta Singh and Ganesh Ghosh, several dozens of comrades dressed in military attire attacked the police line in the darkness of night with just a few revolvers and pistols. The surprise attack completely shattered the morale of the policemen present in the barrack, and being panic-stricken, they all fled from the spot. The revolutionaries captured the armory, quickly armed and loaded themselves with as many guns and bullets as possible. The simultaneous attack on the auxiliary force armory under the leadership of Loknath Bal and Nirmal Sen was also successfully executed, although armed confrontation took place between a few sentries and the revolutionaries. The European Sergeant Major, who was residing inside the compound, was killed in the confrontation. Here also the revolutionaries captured the rifles and the machine guns. However, unfortunately, they could not find the bullets. On the other hand, the telephone exchange and the telegraph office in Chittagong town were destroyed by the designated group under the leadership of Ambika Chakraborty. The superintendent of police, the district magistrate, and other high officers came to know that something terrible had happened, but they were unable to communicate with one another. Meanwhile, the groups which were tasked to dismantle rail lines did their job successfully in the outskirts of Chittagong town. Only the plan to attack the European club was not successful because of the delay in procuring vehicles. By the time the revolutionaries reached the club, the Europeans had gone back to their homes. After executing all the plans, the different groups of revolutionaries, without having any casualties till then, all assembled at the police line for further planning. As President of the Indian Republican Army, Chittagong branch, Surya Sen hoisted the national flag, replacing the Union Jack, the symbol of colonial slavery. Independence pledge was read and Chittagong was declared as independent.
While the revolutionaries were busy with further planning inside the police line, they suddenly faced a spurt of firing from some Europeans who had got hold of a machine gun. The revolutionaries replied to the attack with their weapons. The Europeans soon fled after realizing the strength of the revolutionaries. After this incident, it was decided to destroy the police line by fire. During this one revolutionary, Himanshu Sen was severely burnt. Ganesh Ghosh, Ananta Singh, Makhan Ghoshal, and Ananda Gupta, took him by car for emergency medical treatment. However, when they did not come back within time, the remaining comrades began to move toward the hills and thus separated from those 4 members. In the next few days, 57 revolutionaries under the leadership of Surya Sen, accompanied by hunger and thirst, walked through the hills and finally took shelter in the Jalalabad hills, where they waited for the enemy attacks. After rigorous searching, on 22nd April, the British military finally tracked down the revolutionaries on Jalalabad hills and direct armed confrontation took place between the two sides. The British forces retreated at night after huge casualties at their end. Approximately 74 British soldiers died and 150 wounded. In this battle, which is famously known as the Battle of Jalalabad, around 10 revolutionaries became martyrs. The next day, British forces even started bombing and firing from planes. The revolutionary leaders realized that in this way it will be difficult to sustain in such an unequal battle. Thus, they decided to spread over the nearby villages and to launch sudden guerrilla attacks whenever necessary. After sending most comrades to the town, Surya Sen and a few other revolutionaries took secret shelters in villages.
Among Ananta Singh and Ganesh Ghosh, who were separated from the main group, the first one surrendered in Kolkata on 28 June with some specific tactical objectives, and the last one was arrested along with another revolutionary hero, Loknath Bal, on 31st August from their secret shelter in Chandannagar after an armed confrontation with the British police. They were taken to Chittagong and a trial was initiated against them. Ambika Chakraborty, who was wounded in the Battle of Jalalabad, was also arrested. All of them, along with several others arrested, were sentenced to life imprisonment and deported to Andaman. In future, after release, most of them joined different shades of left parties in independent India. Meanwhile, Surya Sen and his close associates continued their secret revolutionary activities. The Battle of Dhalghat and the attack on the European Institute were 2 burning examples of that. On 13 June 1932, Surya Sen and his comrades gathered at a secret shelter house in Patia village of Dhalghat Thana. British police encircled the house after receiving information from a stooge. Armed conflict between the revolutionaries and British police took place, in which Nirmal Sen and Apurva Sen sacrificed their lives while helping Surya Sen and Pritilata Wadedar to flee from the place. This armed conflict is famously known as the Battle of Dhalghat.
The revolutionary activities of Chittagong also witnessed the participation of women comrades with the same vigor as men. Surya Sen wrote,
There is no dearth of brave young men in Bengal. From Balashore to Jalalabad, Kalarpol, the country's soil was soaked with the blood of these brave young men many times. However, the fact that the mothers have also jumped into this game of Shakti remains unacknowledged in history. I want that the stories of such self-sacrifice of women comrades should find its due place. The British should know, the world should know that the women of this country are not left behind in the struggle for independence.
The story of Chittagong will remain unfinished if we do not mention the names and activities of 2 women, Kalpana Datta and Pritilata Wadedar. Kalpana Datta was an expert in making explosives using indigenous methods. She was an important part of Surya Sen's plan to make their imprisoned comrades free and demolish the courts using mine blasts. However, the plan did not materialize. Later on, Kalpana Datta and Pritilata Wadedar were entrusted with the plan of attacking the European Club. However, due to the sudden arrest of Kalpana Datta, this revolutionary task was led by Pritilata alone who finally became a martyr during the attack. On 23rd September 1932, a number of revolutionaries under the leadership of Pritilata, the fearless lady revolutionary, attacked the European clubs with arms and bombs. Several British and Anglo-Indian officers were wounded in the attack. Pritilata herself got wounded, and realizing that it would be difficult for her to escape in such a condition, she sacrificed her life by swallowing cyanide capsule. One write-up containing her statement was found with her dead body. Some lines from her statement are as follows. Long live the revolution. I solemnly declare I belong to the Chittagong branch of the Indian Republic Army, whose lofty ideal is to liberate my mother country from the yoke of the tyrannical, exploiting, and imperialistic British government, and to establish a federated Indian Republic instead. Females are determined that they will no more lag behind and stand side by side with their brothers in any activities, however dangerous or difficult. I earnestly hope that my sisters will no more think themselves weaker and will get themselves ready to face all dangers and difficulties and join the revolutionary movement in their thousands.
Surya Sen was finally arrested in February 1933 from one of his secret shelters at Goirala village near Chittagong town after a long armed conflict. His another close associate, Tarakeshwar Dostidar, who also took part in the Chittagong Armory raid and was arrested in May 1933. Both Surya Sen and Tarakeshwar Dostidar were tortured in an inhuman manner by the British police and hanged to death on 12 January 1934. The dream of Surya Sen and his comrades is still not fulfilled. The country is still witnessing anti-colonial struggle in a new form. Let us take part in that struggle with similar valor. The glorious chapter of Chittagong and the selfless sacrifice of its brave soldiers shall arouse our revolutionary conscience.